Picture a man named Robert Anderson, a 45-year-old millionaire sitting in his sleek Mercedes at a crowded Manhattan intersection. The world around him buzzed with the usual chaos of the city, but his mind was elsewhere, consumed by a single agonizing thought. His 9-year-old daughter, Sophie, had been missing for 4 days. No ransom note, no lades, just an empty space where his little girl used to be. He had hired private detectives, offered rewards that could change lives, and spent sleepless nights waiting for any sign of her. Nothing had come. But on this ordinary morning, as he sat at a red light on Fifth Avenue, something caught his eye that would change everything. A boy no older than 12 weaved through the traffic, selling candy bars to drivers. Around his neck hung a silver necklace with a butterfly pendant, its diamonds catching the sunlight. That necklace wasn't just any piece of jewelry. Robert had designed it himself for Sophie, a one-of-a-kind gift for her last Christmas, her initials delicately etched on its back. His heart raced as questions flooded his mind. How could a street kid have his daughter's necklace? The boy's name was Marcus, though Robert didn't know that yet. Wary and quick, Marcus sensed trouble and bolted through the crowd. Robert followed, his desperation outweighing the chaos of honking cars and bustling pedestrians. When he finally caught up, he saw not a thief, but a child with sharp, cautious eyes hardened by life on the streets. Marcus's story came haltingly, but it carried a weight that shook Robert to his core. He had found Sophie, injured and terrified, hiding in the basement of an abandoned Bronx building. She had given him the necklace, begging him to find her father. For 3 days, Marcus had cared for her, bringing her water and scraps of food, though she barely ate. She was alive, he said, but her words hinted at something darker, a betrayal that went beyond a random act. Someone she knew, someone trusted, had orchestrated her disappearance, and it wasn't just about her. It was meant to destroy Robert too. The journey to the Bronx was a blur for Robert. In a damp, graffiti-covered basement, he found Sophie curled up on a filthy mattress, clutching a strange teddy bear. Her face was pale, her eyes shadowed with a fear no child should know. As he held her, careful not to break her fragile frame, her whispered words unraveled a truth he wasn't ready for. She spoke of Uncle David, Robert's best friend of 20 years, a man who had been like family. David had called it a game, something her father knew about, but his angry phone calls about money and contracts told a different story. He had threatened her, warning that if she spoke, harm would come to her father. Marcus, standing nearby, added more. He had overheard David talking about transferring money, signing papers, and exploiting Robert's distraction while he searched for Sophie. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. David, the man who had mourned with Robert when his wife died, who had held Sophie as a baby, had betrayed them in the cruelest way. Robert's world tilted. For days he had trusted David to manage parts of his company while he focused on finding Sophie. David had access to accounts, contracts, clients, everything. He had even urged Robert to hire extra security, citing vague concerns, all while knowing exactly where Sophie was. Marcus revealed more, his voice steady despite the danger. He had seen David with 2 other men near the abandoned building, a politician known for preaching family values and another figure Marcus recognized but couldn't place. They weren't just after Sophie, they were dismantling Robert's empire piece by piece while he grieved. But in that moment, holding his daughter, something shifted in Robert. The pain that threatened to consume him hardened into resolve. Marcus, the boy society overlooked, had saved his daughter when no one else could. Together, they would turn the tables. Robert made a choice that day, one no one saw coming. He stopped the public search for Sophie, cancelled media alerts, and dismissed the detectives. To the world, he appeared broken, retreating from the fight, but in truth, he was planning. He moved to a modest apartment in the Bronx, just blocks from where Marcus lived on the streets. There he found an unexpected ally in Elena Rodriguez, a 38-year-old lawyer who had grown up in the same neighborhood as Marcus. She despised men like David, who twisted the system for their gain. Elena pored over documents Robert provided and uncovered a trail of financial deceit. David had moved company funds through his own accounts, leaving a digital footprint that could bury him. Meanwhile, Marcus became Robert's eyes and ears. Invisible to the powerful, he slipped through the city, catching snippets of conversations David and his allies thought were private. Names, meeting places, even bank account passwords spilled carelessly in his presence. The plan took shape quickly. David had arranged to find Sophie in a staged rescue, casting himself as the hero. But Robert, Elena, and Marcus were steps ahead. They learned of a meeting David had planned with his accomplices, a politician named Harrison and a detective named Murphy, at an upscale Italian restaurant on the east side. $50,000 for Harrison, $30,000 for Murphy, all to keep the investigation at bay and secure their victory. Robert saw his chance. With Elena's legal expertise and Marcus's street smarts, they built a trap. The truth was about to come crashing down, and it would be more devastating than David could ever imagine. This story of betrayal, courage, and justice is just beginning. If it's tugging at your heart or sparking your curiosity, subscribe now to join us for more stories that prove the underdog can rewrite the ending. Hit that button and let's keep going. Robert Anderson's life had been upended, his trust in those closest to him shattered by the revelation that his best friend of 20 years, David, had orchestrated his daughter Sophie's disappearance. Yet in the heart of the Bronx, alongside a street-smart boy named Marcus and a sharp-minded lawyer named Elena Rodriguez, Robert found not just hope but a fierce determination to turn the tables. The plan they crafted was not born of vengeance alone, but of a deeper need for justice, a need to protect Sophie and ensure no one else would suffer at the hands of men who believed their wealth and power made them untouchable. David, along with his accomplices, a politician named Harrison and a detective named Murphy, thought they had outsmarted everyone. They were wrong. The Italian restaurant on the east side was their chosen meeting place, a polished venue where deals were made over expensive champagne. David believed this lunch would seal his triumph, a moment to celebrate the money siphoned from Robert's company and the chaos he had sown. He had no idea that Marcus, the boy he dismissed as insignificant, was already there, blending into the background as effortlessly as he had on the streets. Nor did he suspect that Elena, with her legal expertise, was piecing together evidence that could dismantle his carefully laid scheme. Robert, too, was no longer the grieving, distracted father David expected. He had become something sharper, a man who understood that the best way to fight power was not with more power, but with truth. Marcus had uncovered critical details during his quiet observations. David and his allies spoke freely around him, assuming a kid selling candy or lingering nearby couldn't possibly matter. They mentioned bank accounts, meeting times, and sums of money. $50,000 for Harrison to sway political favors, $30,000 for Murphy to steer the police investigation away from the truth. Every word they thought was private was a thread in the net closing around them. Elena, meanwhile, had traced the financial trail David left behind. His arrogance had led him to use his personal account as a bridge for the stolen funds, a mistake that left undeniable proof of his theft. Those transactions, paired with Marcus's overheard conversations, formed a case no lawyer could unravel. The plan was simple but bold. Robert, Elena, and Marcus would let David believe he was winning until the moment he was. The restaurant meeting was the perfect stage. Unbeknownst to David, every word spoken at that table would be captured, not just by Marcus's keen ears, but by a network Robert had quietly built. Contacts David didn't know Robert had, journalists, federal agents, even a social media account with a growing audience, were ready to turn a private betrayal into a public reckoning. The trap was set for a Tuesday afternoon, under a grey sky that seemed to hint at the storm about to break. At 2 o'clock, David walked into the restaurant, his confidence as sharp as his tailored suit. Harrison and Murphy joined him, their laughter light as they toasted their supposed victory. They spoke of money, of Robert's obliviousness, of how they had manipulated a father's desperation to their advantage. They didn't notice Marcus at a nearby table, unremarkable in his worn jacket, or the subtle glances from others in the room. A journalist posing as a diner, a federal agent blending into the crowd. They didn't know their words were being recorded, their actions watched, their lies exposed in real time to thousands online. The moment of truth came swiftly. Marcus stood and approached their table, his presence so unexpected it silenced their laughter. He spoke with a calm that belied his age, revealing that he had been listening, that he had found Sophie, that their entire conversation was being broadcast to the world. David's face drained of color, his confidence crumbling as the reality sank in. Harrison's bravado faltered, and Murphy's excuses evaporated. Robert appeared then, not with the rage they might have expected, but with a quiet, unshakable resolve. Behind him stood Elena, holding a folder thick with evidence, bank records, legal documents, proof of their crimes. Federal agents closed in, their presence a final blow to the trio's illusion of control. David's betrayal was laid bare. The kidnapping of a 9-year-old girl, the theft of millions from Robert's company, the corruption of a politician and a detective. But the true devastation was public. The live broadcast of their meeting exploded across social media, amassing 500,000 views in hours. Comments poured in, filled with outrage and calls for justice. David's name became synonymous with betrayal, his company's value plummeted, and his personal life unraveled as his wife announced their divorce. Harrison's political career collapsed under the weight of public scorn, and Murphy's attempts to bargain fell flat. Their arrogance had been their downfall, their belief that no one, especially not a street kid or a grieving father, could outsmart them. For Robert, the victory was bittersweet. Holding Sophie in his arms, knowing she was safe, was everything, but the scars of her ordeal would linger. Yet in the aftermath, something remarkable emerged. Marcus, the boy who had saved Sophie, became more than an ally. Robert brought him into his home, not as a guest but as family, adopting him as Sophie's brother. Together they founded the Marcus and Sophie Foundation, funded by the recovered money from David's scheme. It became a beacon for protecting children, offering hope to those society overlooked. Elena joined them, her legal brilliance guiding the Foundation's mission, while forging a bond with Robert that grew beyond partnership. Months later, Robert sat in his new office, no longer chasing wealth but purpose. The Foundation had already helped hundreds of children, and Sophie, though still healing, was smiling again. Marcus, now in a prestigious school, carried the same fire in his eyes, speaking to young people about their worth, telling them they were never invisible. The world had changed because of their courage. David's attempt to destroy a family had instead built one stronger, one that turned pain into progress. His punishment wasn't just a prison cell. It was knowing that those he underestimated had created something greater than he ever could. This story isn't just about justice, it's about what happens when ordinary people refuse to accept injustice. If it stirred something in you, subscribe to hear more tales of resilience and redemption. Join us and let's keep telling stories that matter. The dust had settled after the dramatic confrontation in the East Side restaurant, where Robert Anderson, alongside Marcus and Elena Rodriguez, exposed David's betrayal to the world. The man who had once been Robert's closest friend now faced a future behind bars, his empire of deceit crumbling under the weight of undeniable evidence. But for Robert, Marcus, and Sophie, the story didn't end with David's arrest. It was only the beginning of something far greater, a transformation that turned their pain into a purpose that would ripple far beyond their own lives. In the months that followed, Robert stepped away from the world of high-stakes business that had once defined him. The penthouse views and private jets no longer held their allure. Instead, he poured his energy into the Marcus and Sophie Foundation, a beacon of hope named for the two children who had shown him what truly mattered. The foundation, built with the millions recovered from David's fraud, focused on protecting vulnerable children, those like Marcus who had grown up invisible to a society that passed them by. It provided shelter, education, and opportunities, ensuring no child would have to face the streets alone. Sophie, now 10, insisted the foundation bear Marcus's name alongside hers. He had been her lifeline in those dark days, and she wanted the world to know his strength. Marcus, once a boy surviving on his wits, found a new home with Robert and Sophie. Legally adopted as Sophie's brother, he kept his own last name, a quiet nod to his roots, but embraced the family that chose him. At 13, he enrolled in a prestigious school, his sharp mind thriving in a place that nurtured his potential. Yet he never forgot where he came from. He began speaking at schools, sharing his story with young people who felt overlooked. His message was simple but powerful. Being underestimated was not a weakness but a hidden strength. When no one expects anything from you, every step you take becomes a surprise, a chance to rewrite your story. Elena Rodriguez, the lawyer who had unraveled David's financial schemes, became more than a partner in the fight. She joined the foundation as its legal director, her passion for justice driving its mission forward. Her connection with Robert deepened, rooted in shared values and a quiet understanding of the pain they had overcome. Together, they built a team of people the system had often ignored: former street kids, rehabilitated ex-convicts, immigrants with untapped skills. Their company, Anderson and Associates, wasn't just a business, it was a statement. It proved that talent and heart could outshine privilege, with productivity soaring and loyalty unbreakable. Sophie, though still healing from the trauma of her ordeal, found moments of joy again. The butterfly necklace, once a symbol of loss, now hung around her neck as a reminder of resilience. She laughed more, her drawings filling the family's new home with color, sketches of Robert, Marcus, Elena and herself, a family forged not by blood but by choice. Her therapy sessions helped her process the fear, but it was the love around her that brought back her smile. One evening, as the three sat together, she asked a question that lingered in the air. Could they ever forgive David for what he had done? Robert paused, his answer measured but honest. Forgiveness, he said, wasn't about erasing the past, but about refusing to let someone else's cruelty define your future. Marcus nodded, adding that justice wasn't about hurting those who hurt you. It was about building something better, something that stopped the cycle of harm. The impact of their story spread far beyond their family. The video of David's arrest, streamed live from the restaurant, had exploded online, viewed by millions. It sparked a movement with hashtags celebrating the power of the underestimated. People shared their own stories of standing up to injustice, inspired by a father, a boy, and a lawyer who refused to back down. Documentaries followed, each one peeling back layers of corruption exposed by the case. Other conspiracies came to light as ordinary people realized they too could demand accountability. The politician Harrison lost his career in a landslide defeat, his name now a cautionary tale. Murphy the detective faded into obscurity, his badge traded for a life of anonymity. David, sentenced to 25 years without parole, sat in a cell, haunted not just by his punishment, but by the success of those he tried to destroy. Robert's new office overlooked Manhattan, but his view was different now. It wasn't about the skyline's glitter, but the lives he could touch. The foundation had helped over 200 children in its first year, each one a testament to what Marcus and Sophie had endured. Marcus, now a confident speaker, inspired thousands with his story, while Sophie's quiet strength reminded everyone that healing was possible. Elena's legal work ensured the foundation's reach grew, partnering with communities to protect the vulnerable. Their work wasn't just about fixing the past. It was about building a future where no one felt invisible. As Robert looked at a framed photo on his desk, him, Sophie, and Marcus on the day of Marcus's adoption, he felt a quiet satisfaction. David had tried to tear them apart, but instead he had forged a family stronger than ever. The true victory wasn't in seeing David punished, though justice had been served. It was in Sophie's laughter, Marcus's confidence, and the hundreds of lives changed by their foundation. The pain of betrayal had become a catalyst for something meaningful, a legacy that made David's greed irrelevant. In the end, the greatest revenge was not destruction but creation, building a world where love and justice could triumph, where the underestimated could rise and prove their worth. This story of courage, family, and redemption shows what's possible when we refuse to accept injustice. If it's moved you, subscribe to hear more tales of people who turn pain into purpose. Join us and let's keep sharing stories that remind us what really matters. The story of Robert Anderson, his daughter Sophie, and Marcus, the boy who changed their lives, had become more than a tale of betrayal and justice. It had grown into a movement, a testament to the power of those who refuse to be defined by their pain. David's attempt to destroy a family had backfired in ways he could never have imagined. leaving behind not just a broken man but a legacy that would outlast his schemes. As the months turned into a year, Robert, Sophie, and Marcus built something extraordinary, proving that even the deepest wounds could give rise to hope. The Marcus and Sophie Foundation had become a national force, its reach extending to cities beyond New York. With Elena Rodriguez at its legal helm, the foundation rescued hundreds of children from the margins, offering them education, safety, and a chance to dream. Each success felt like a quiet rebuke to the world David had tried to manipulate, a world where power and greed were mistaken for invincibility. Robert's new company, Anderson and Associates, thrived by hiring those society often overlooked, people with stories like Marcus's, whose resilience and ingenuity outshone any corporate pedigree. The numbers spoke for themselves. Productivity soared, loyalty was ironclad, and the company became a model for what business could be when it valued purpose over profit. Sophie, now stronger with each passing day, carried the butterfly necklace as a symbol of her survival. Her drawings, once filled with shadows, now burst with color, scenes of her new family, including Marcus and Elena, who had become a constant presence in their lives. Therapy helped her reclaim her voice, but it was the love around her that restored her laughter. Marcus, at 14, had grown into a confident young man, his speeches at schools and community centers inspiring thousands. He spoke of the streets that had shaped him, not with bitterness but with pride, urging others to see their struggles as strengths. His message resonated. Being underestimated was a gift, a chance to surprise the world with what you could achieve. Elena's role had evolved too. Beyond her legal work, she had become a partner in every sense, sharing Robert's vision and his heart. Together they fostered a community where trust was earned through actions, not status. Their home was a haven filled with Sophie's artwork, Marcus's chess games, and the quiet moments that made them a family. One evening, as they sat together, Sophie asked a question that lingered in the air. What did it mean to move forward after such betrayal? Robert's answer was simple but profound. Moving forward wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about choosing to build something better, something that made the pain worthwhile. Marcus added that true strength lay in protecting others, in making sure no one else had to endure what they had. The ripple effects of their story continued to spread. The viral video of David's downfall had ignited a movement, with people across the country sharing stories of standing up to corruption. Documentaries and news reports followed, exposing other schemes that thrived in the shadows of power. David, serving his 25-year sentence, was a footnote now, his name tied to failure, while Robert, Sophie, and Marcus became symbols of resilience. The politician Harrison faded into obscurity, his career buried under public outrage. Murphy, the detective, lived a quiet, humbled life, far from the badge he had misused. Their punishment was not just legal but social, a reminder that no one was above accountability. Robert often looked back on that fateful day at the Fifth Avenue traffic light, when a glint of silver had led him to Marcus and ultimately to Sophie. That moment had torn his world apart, but it had also rebuilt it stronger. The foundation, the family, the movement, they were all proof that even the darkest moments could lead to light. He no longer saw Manhattan's skyline as a symbol of ambition, but as a backdrop to lives changed, to children saved, to a purpose that outshone any fortune. Sophie's laughter, Marcus's determination, and Elena's unwavering support were his true wealth. As the foundation grew, so did its impact. Partnerships with schools, community centers, and even state programs expanded its reach, with Marcus's ideas at the heart of new initiatives. He designed programs to teach kids like him the skills he'd learned on the streets: observation, strategy, resilience, but in classrooms, not alleys. Sophie, too, found her voice, sharing her story in small ways, her courage inspiring others to heal. Together, they showed the world that family wasn't just born, it was chosen, built on trust and shared battles. This story began with a necklace and a desperate father, but it ended with a legacy. Robert, Marcus, and Sophie had turned betrayal into something beautiful, proving that the underestimated could change the world. Their victory wasn't in David's defeat, but in the lives they saved, the hope they ignited, and the family they became. If this tale of courage and redemption has touched you, subscribe to hear more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Next time, we'll dive into a story of a woman who uncovered a secret that threatened her entire town. Trust me, you won't believe what she did to fight back. Join us and let's keep discovering the power of the human spirit.